Three components of sustained momentum: new, improved, improving. That's it. New, improved, improving. New, improved, improving. Letter A under number one, new. New triggers momentum. New triggers momentum. This is just a fact of life. As soon as you begin thinking about this, you'll see dozens and dozens of applications in culture and in society. New always triggers momentum. Anytime there's something new, there is an element of momentum. It may not last, it may be good, it may be bad, but anything new triggers some kind of momentum. Number two, anything new by definition generates some kind of momentum. Number three, the momentum can be positive or negative. Here's some illustrations, and we're going to drop specifically into ministry world. A negative event can create negative momentum. 9/11 is an example of that. A negative event, negative momentum. Airplanes crash into the buildings, all kinds of negative momentum in terms of our economy, the stock market, everything else. A negative event can create positive momentum. Sometimes there's a negative event that creates positive momentum. We've had all kinds of discoveries made in an attempt to solve problems that were a result of something negative. A problem, which is a negative thing, all of a sudden there's all kinds of creativity that pops up around problems, and new discoveries are made that create industries in some cases, that solve problems, that answer questions. In our lifetime, there have been several national rescues where a child falls into a well or someone gets into trouble, and a group of people come around and rescue that person. And in that community, oftentimes, there's positive momentum that comes as a result of something difficult or something negative. In your notes, the tip is this, that negative circumstances are the fertile soil for a burst of positive momentum. Negative circumstances are often fertile soil for a burst of positive momentum. Many of you walked into ministry environments where nothing was going on, everything was bad, and when you showed up, things began to turn around. In fact, your story would be, the worse things are, the better the opportunity is for a leader. Because where there's negative momentum, oftentimes there's a negative event instead, a negative event creates the opportunity for leaders to walk in and create some positive momentum. Then the third one is positive event, positive momentum. A city gets a new sports franchise, new event, new sports franchise, new momentum in the economy and the excitement, and the city comes together around a sports franchise. So the point is this, anything new in your ministry, in your church, in your staff, in your city, anything new creates some kind of momentum, which means in an area of your church or your city or your division where you want to create momentum, chances are it's going to require something brand new. In organizational life, number 4, organizational momentum is often triggered by one of three things: new leadership, new direction, or a new product. New leadership, new direction, new product, or in our world, a new program. Some of you've experienced this. You launched a new program, and there was a burst of momentum around that new program. New leadership, new direction, new product. Implication number 5, and this is so important, when evaluating an organization or program that lacks momentum, the questions to ask are, do we need a new leader, a new direction, or a new product? Or do we need some combination of the three? Do we need a new leader? That's usually the first trigger we pull, isn't it? We need a new leader, let's get him out of there, get somebody new. Do we need a new product? Because you see, if you bring a new leader in and they have to sell the same bad product, no new momentum, right? If you bring a new leader in, come on, I'm talking to the choir. If you're hired as a senior pastor and you're the new guy, but you're given the old system, you inherit an old system, then there's not going to be any new momentum. There's going to be a nice party, and there's going to be 80 new people to see what the new pastor looks like, and his wife, and does she sing, or what is she going to do? There's that whole curiosity thing, a little bit of a honeymoon period. But if there's nothing new, if you've just got to work in the same old system, very difficult to create new momentum. So our tendency is to exchange leaders but do nothing about our systems. That's a different talk. New leader, new direction, or new product. Which of those three, or what combination of the three do we need to talk about? Number 6, momentum is never, and this is the part that your elders and your deacons and the they inside your church that aren't staff members need to understand. Momentum is never triggered by tweaking something old. That's what we tend to do. And businesses do this too. We think if we tweak something old and try to make it a little bit better, then whoa, wow. But that's not That's an important part. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But that's not what triggers momentum. It is triggered by introducing something new. Then I wrote in my notes, this is the challenge facing the established church. Established organizations will always be tempted to tweak the old rather than launch the new. Established organizations, whether businesses or churches, established organizations that have habits. When you go to work, you do the same thing you did yesterday. This is the way we do it here. This is the way we've always done it. This is how we got to where we are. This is what made us a household name. The tendency is to tweak the old rather than pay the price financially or whatever it takes to launch something new. Warning. New does not guarantee sustained momentum, but new is an essential trigger for momentum. New does not guarantee sustained momentum, but new is an absolute, it's the trigger for momentum. Letter B, new, improved, improving. New, improved, improving. Let's talk about improved. Letter B. The new must be a noticeable improvement over the old. The new, whatever it is that's new that you're doing departmentally, divisionally, or in your church or in your city, the new has to be a noticeable improvement over the old. In other words, the people who walk in or the people who hear about it, it's got to be pitched in such a way or marketed in such a way that it's not just, we painted the room red, come and see it, you're going to love it, we redecorated, we've got cool new t-shirts, same terrible program, but have you seen our t-shirts, okay? It has to be a noticeable difference. It has to be a noticeable improvement. Number two, when evaluating new options, this is new programming, tweaks to programming, whatever, the question to ask is this a significant improvement over what we had before? Not is it simply a tweak, is this a significant improvement? It's new, but it's got to be improved, and it's got to be a significant improvement over what we had before. And if the answer to that question is, it's kind of just, version 2 of the same thing, and I don't know that it's that radically different, even though we've got a hoopla about it, just wait. Wait till you can find a noticeable improvement before doing something new if the goal is to create a new kind of momentum. I wrote in my notes, mediocre does not produce momentum. And again, because of budget constraints, because of personnel constraints, because most churches, hopefully not you, but most churches are doing way too much stuff, so unfocused. We got a ministry for everybody that wants to be in the ministry, and hey, that's a good idea, why don't you go do that? You remember that old way of thinking? Hey, that's a great idea, why don't you go do that? We empower our people to do ministry. Terrible idea. You should decide what needs to be done and involve your people in doing those things. Different talk. But because we're so thin and we're doing so many things, it's difficult sometimes to gather the financial resources or the people resources to really make a marked improvement. But if the goal is momentum, that's what you've got to do. It's got to be new, it's got to be improved, and it has to be a noticeable improvement. And then letter C, improving. Improving, number one under improving. Momentum is sustained through continuous improvement. Momentum is sustained through continuous improvement. Now, I brought some illustrations of this, all of which are pretty familiar to most of you except one. The marketplace totally gets this. Totally gets this. These are all household name products. But instead of saying, everybody uses Scott, toilet paper, so we don't need to improve it. New. Now, can you tell what's new about this? It looks kind of like the toilet paper I've used my whole life, but they want you to look at this and go, oh, no. We've been working on this. We're not content to just have you use toilet paper. This is new. We've been thinking of, not too much, but we've been thinking about this. And now, how do you improve toilet paper? I don't know. But they're smart enough to know we can't just have toilet paper. Scott toilet paper. Your mama used it. Your grandmama used it. We think you'll use it too. They know you won't. So in order to create and sustain marketing momentum, they understand whether it's really new or better or not. They want you to think it's new. They totally get this. There's so many illustrations. Look at this. This is amazing. Okay, everybody knows what Kleenex is. Why in the world would you need to change Kleenex? These are just a few. They're all Kleenex, but they're all new and improved. And here's what this says. We've been working on it. We are so committed to making sure your nose doesn't run off the top of your lip that we are constantly thinking about how to make this better. Now, you already know what Kleenex is. We don't have to introduce you to Kleenex. We don't have to introduce you to children's ministry. We don't have to introduce you to church. But we want you to know, this one kills 99.9% of all cold and flu viruses. I don't really think you can kill a virus. I thought a virus was just forever. It's the nature of a virus. But this one's going to kill viruses. I don't know if that's amazing. So, what about this? This is incredible. Look at this. Everybody knows what Crest is. We don't have to introduce Crest. But has Crest been content to say everybody knows what Crest is? And so since you're using Crest, we don't have to talk about it anymore? Look at this. Now here's my point. This has nothing to do with where anyone spends eternity. Now, this is important, but this isn't really that important. But somebody has decided we are so committed to making sure you keep coming back to our toothpaste. We are every once in a while going to repackage it, and we're going to put whitening expressions with cinnamon rush, whitening scope, extreme, cavity protection, which I thought was the whole point of toothpaste anyway, but whitening expressions with wintergreen, whitening expressions with vanilla mint. This is the pro health. So like if you're a pro, I don't even know what any of that means. And you know what? It's not even important that we know what it means. What this says to us is, oh my gosh, they are so committed to their brand, they never leave well enough alone. Now, every mama, every soccer mom, every woman, every wife that does grocery shopping, or every man that does grocery shopping walks to the grocery store every week and is assaulted with the commitment the marketplace has to making things better. And if something doesn't work, we take it off the shelf. And then they show up at church. It's like, this is kind of like how it was a year ago, 5 years ago. 10 years ago. These products go on and on and on. Ziploc, everybody knows what a Ziploc is, but there's 100 different kinds. Arm & Hammer, baking soda, on and on. But here's my favorite one. They got new Cheerios. Everybody knows what Armor All is. This is the original, but it's new and improved. Original, but it's new and improved. So when I walk by, it's not just, there's a lot of products that compete with Armor All now, so they want you to know, you know what, we're not changing the name, we're not gonna call it something else, but we want you to know we're working on it. We're working on it. We wanna make it better, new, improved, improving. This was once new, it's improved, constantly improving. Look at this, this is so funny. Okay, check this out. This is the, here we go. This is the original King James Reference Bible, okay? But this is the New King James Version, which many of you use. Now, when the New King James Version came out, there was all kinds of, and how long did it take us to get a New King James Version? The first one was written when? Remember? 1611. And then they came out with the New King James Version, and people just freaked out. Oh my gosh, you know? Meanwhile, we walk through the grocery store, and everybody else is upgrading. Now, I realize when it comes to a Bible, it's a little bit different. But the point was, when the New King James Version came out, there was actually pushback. Now, that pushback to a new version of the Bible, I think, works its way into our churches. And whereas everybody else who's selling stuff it's important, but it's not that important. They understand once it's new and once everybody knows what it is, it's got to be improved and improving. Improved and improving. Number 2, continuous improvement requires systematic evaluation. Continuous improvement, and obviously that's what's happening in these research development organizations behind all these products. Continuous improvement requires systematic evaluation. If this is evaluation that has to be built into the rhythm of your organization. I'm constantly surprised by senior leaders, especially, primarily denominational leaders, not a lot of you guys who are men and women who are doing all kinds of cool, new, radical things. But in denominational world, how little evaluation is part of the rhythm of the organization. There's almost no evaluation. There aren't even staff meetings designed around evaluation. But the only way for there to be improvement is for there to be evaluation, not random evaluation, not evaluation like, hey, I really like that song, that was a good job today. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every Monday or every Tuesday morning at 8:30 or 9:30, the group that did the thing gets together to talk about and evaluate the thing. That's the only way for there to be improvement, continual improvement. Number 3, continuous improvement requires unfiltered evaluation. That means people are going to get their feelings hurt. It's God's will for people to get their feelings hurt. If we had been hurting each other's feelings on a more regular basis in church world, the church wouldn't be in the mess it's in. But what happened is we violated, and one day I'm going to do a whole talk on this because I did it for staff, but it's kind of negative, and I maybe save it for my last leadership talk in my life because it really is so negative, but it's so true. So I'll just throw it out because you're a mature audience who can handle this. You always sacrifice the one for the many. You never sacrifice the many for the one. So if the many is your church congregation, or the many is your student ministry, or the ministry is your adults, or the many is your singles, and you have an evaluation meeting, and there sits Wanda, or there sits Philip, and they did a bad job, but we don't want to say, we're not doing that again, that really didn't work, and you did a bad job, because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We sacrifice the many for the one. The Bible teaches you sacrifice the one for the many. That's the point of our whole message, is that Jesus, the one, sacrificed his life for the many. Then we get in a church staff meeting, we don't hurt anybody's feelings, so we don't really do unfiltered evaluation, and then we do the same things that don't work over and over and over and over until we finally just fire Willie and Wanda and everybody and blame it on them, but we never really told them what a bad job they were doing. Okay, now that's a little bit extreme, but the point is, if we're gonna be this committed to our product, and if we're going to be this committed to our message, then there has to be a place in all of our organizations at multiple divisional levels where we have unfiltered evaluation. And then 4, continuous improvement requires that nothing and nobody be off limits. I wrote this in my notes. If you're not evaluating the areas where you're experiencing momentum, if you are not evaluating the areas where you're experiencing momentum, and I got to tell you, those are the areas we generally don't evaluate because things are going so well. Wasn't it great Sunday? Yep. All right, what's next on the agenda? Was that your evaluation? Yep, it was great. If you're not evaluating the areas where you're experiencing momentum, the clock on your success is ticking down. Because eventually what works today, it doesn't work forever. We know that. And when you wake up someday and realize this isn't working, you won't know what to do because you didn't know what created the momentum to begin with. And last thing I wrote in my notes, never forget everything you do and everything your church does is being evaluated every week. You know that, right? So why don't you evaluate it? Everybody that attends your student ministry and our singles ministry and your church, they're evaluating all the time. Why don't we? And you know what they do when they give us a bad evaluation? They talk to each other, and then eventually they leave, and we learn nothing because we don't want to hurt anybody's